That unprecedented FBI search of the former president's home is triggering a political firestorm on the right. Donald Trump says he is the victim here, not the bad guy, and most Republicans are getting in line behind him. In a statement, the former president calls Monday's search, quote, prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024 and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. The former president offered no facts to back up any of that. And we should note the search warrant was issued by a federal magistrate. But 91 days now to the midterm election, and as Trump prepares to run again in 2024, it is clear Trump and most other Republicans see an opportunity to mobilize the GOP base here. Perhaps most striking in the Republican reaction were the words of the man who might be Speaker, the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy. Again, the warrant was legally executed, but McCarthy called it intolerable and put the Justice Department on notice should Republicans take control of the House come January. Attorney General Garland, McCarthy said, preserve your documents and clear your calendar. With me now to share their reporting and their insights, CNN's Caitlin Collins is still with us, along with Aisha Rasco of NPR, Leanne Caldwell of The Washington Post. It is pretty clear to me, tell me if I'm wrong, to connect these dots. Number one, this is unprecedented. Number two, the right has long had grievances about the deep state, the FBI, et cetera. But we've also had a couple of weeks where the political conversation has been, things are getting a little better for the Democrats. They just see the opportunity here to light it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know if we can connect those two things. Like what the Department of Justice is doing is completely separate from the political realm of Democrats. But this does step on Democrats' victory lap a little bit you know, they've had a really good last several weeks heading into the midterm elections to be able to celebrate those accomplishments. But so it just crowds it out a little bit, but they still have that. As far as what Republicans are saying, they think that this is going to be very good for Republicans and for the former president should he decide to run. We'll see if that bears truth. But, you know, Donald Trump has always been the most tenuous part of politics. We're not really sure who it's going to impact and who's going to benefit from it, and we don't know a lot about this yet.
So you see this firestorm on the right now. Again, it's 90 days to the election. So can you sustain it for 90 days? Did Merrick Garland, following the idea that you keep the Justice Department out of elections, either 60 days or 90 days, was it time to that? We'll find out all these things. But look, these are just some of the 2024 presidential candidates reacting. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says this shows we're a banana republic. Senator Marco Rubio, who's on the ballot this year, along with Governor DeSantis, by the way, something we've seen many times from third world Marxist dictatorships. The Arkansas Governor, Asa Hutchinson, we must see the probable cause affidavit before making a judgment. It's the last part there that jumps out at me. Asa Hutchinson is not a Trump fan.
Yeah.
He does not want to seem disloyal. He wants to raise questions about the propriety of this, but he's essentially saying, Merrick Garland, make it public. Well, if that probable cause warrant is damning, that hurts Trump.
Well, it obviously does hurt Trump. And for people like DeSantis or even Mike Pence, I'm sure they're, quietly, crying over this happening because, look, there would be nothing better for DeSantis to say, I'm taking up the mantle of Trump, but he's off to the side right now. But I'm going to fight for you, and I'm going to keep doing it while Trump is having some issues. So, I think this idea, obviously, this is a political show. We're going to look at the politics of it. But when you look at the legal ramifications of it, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think it's great to have the FBI raid your house, right? Like, that's not a great thing. And the legal thing, like the legal issues could supersede the political issues.
Well, that's
the problem.
That's a conversation Washington has had for a long time, though. He's been twice impeached. He is the guy who said he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and get away. So he plays the victim card very well, including, you see, the Republican Party and Trump himself are raising money off this. As soon as it happened, within hours, or if it happened, they said they wanted to raise money off it. Let's listen, Caitlin Collins, to the voice of Donald Trump. It's just in an interesting or ironic, pick your word for it, day. After he finds out about this, he's scheduled to call into a political rally for Sarah Palin, the former Alaska governor, thank you, I'll get my states right, who's now running for Congress. Listen to Donald Trump.
That's right, another day in paradise. This was a strange day. You probably all read about it, but very important.
So tell us the truth in terms of the reporting inside. To Aisha's point, it is not a good day when the FBI raids your house. Trump is very good, very effective. I know Democrats out there get angry when you say this, but very effective at playing the victim card and at turning crises into political opportunity. But they have to be rattled in Trump world.
Yeah, he's certainly trying to use it to his advantage. Obviously, this bolsters this argument that he's long held, which is that basically the government is pitted against him. They are constantly going after him. Witch hunt, reverse Watergate, which is how he's framing this. That has been a longstanding position of his. It is true that this could help bolster that. You're already hearing it from Republicans. You're hearing it from his own family members who are saying if he does decide to run in 2024, which we know he's gearing up to launch, they believe this will put wind in his sails. However, you also have to look at how this went down yesterday. These FBI agents showed up at Mar-a-Lago at about we're told between 8 and 10 in the morning. I'll give it a broad range. It wasn't until about 7 p.m. Eastern last night that the former president confirmed in a statement that yes, it had happened. And that was the first confirmation that we had. It was him in his own words saying that this happened. So I do think there is a part of this where he's using this to his political advantage. But there's also the other aspect of this where people in his own orbit are saying, they went and executed a search warrant on his residence. They've got concerns about whether or not there is something more there because they believe it is so explosive and delicate and sensitive that there must be something if they took that step. Whether or not that there is remains to be seen, of course.
Right, as they're attacking the Attorney General, but even long-serving Republicans in this town who know Merrick Garland well from his days moving up on the federal bench, they don't think he would sign off on this unless he saw something that gave him good reason to do so.
Outrage and condemnation swiftly pouring in from top Republicans following the unprecedented FBI search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. Congressman Mike Turner, the top Republican member on House Intel, tweeted this as the lead Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intel. I am demanding an immediate briefing by FBI Director Wray regarding the national security risk that allegedly rose to the level of ordering a raid on the residence of a former president.
And this is from the Republican House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. He tweets at Attorney General Merrick Garland to, quote, preserve your documents and clear your calendar. Joining us now to discuss all this is CNN anchor and senior political analyst John Avlon and Republican strategist Alice Stewart. John and Alice, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Alice, I want to go to you first. We learned about this not from the DOJ, not from the FBI, but from President Trump himself. He wasn't necessarily confirming this. He was blasting it out there. He appears to see this as beneficial. How does he think that this is going to help him?
Well, it appears as though he could turn out to be a martyr in this situation. Alex, you all know me. I'm hardly an apologist for Trump, but I am a very strong Republican. And what I'm hearing from social conservatives, Republican members of Congress, they are outraged at the lack of transparency here. Look, we understand the DOJ has information they need to withhold, but it's really hard to look at what happened yesterday as anything short of an overreach by the federal authorities and potential political persecution. And many are saying, and I've talked to a lot of folks up and down the political spectrum, doing such a raid to this magnitude, a search to this extreme, anything short of finding the nuclear codes at Mar-a-Lago is going to hugely backfire on the Biden administration. Donald Trump, as he has said, and as many have indicated, has complied to some degree with the federal authorities. But until we find out more about why they went to this extreme, people are going to be outraged. And I'm hearing from people who were over Trump and ready to move on. Now they are galvanized behind him and showing support because they feel he is being singled out by the Justice Department.
So, John, to Alice's point, I mean, legally, that's just not how it works at the Justice Department. You present an affidavit to a judge, and you say, here are the specific reasons why we think there is probable cause that a federal crime was committed. Okay? You don't release that affidavit is under seal if and until charges are brought. That's how it always works.
That's right. And that's why the idea that this was somehow done in secret as part of a witch hunt doesn't line up with what an impartial inquiry by justice would entail. That's what we're dealing with here. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Alice, but I'm not buying this idea that, Trump playing simultaneously victim and aggressor constantly, and that this is somehow a persecution. This is unprecedented in American history. Let's be clear. But the Justice Department under Merrick Garland has been proceeding in a way to depoliticize its work. And we will find out details. It's appropriate. Chris Wray should answer questions about this. We may
Appointed by Trump, by the way.
Appointed by Trump, important to point out, right? But the idea is that justice should be nonpartisan. This appears to be a nonpartisan process. It appears to be related to the Presidential Records Act. I don't think for 1 second that typically the FBI would ask, to search a former president's residence if it was simply under the category of a misdemeanor. So let's wait for all the facts to come in, but I would encourage my Republican friends to think consistently about the rule of law, something their party always held up, and not to rush to the partisan ramparts and comparing, the Justice Department to a Marxist dictatorship, as Marco Rubio recently did.